Let me just tell you some breaking news which we've had in here at the BBC. The Oscar-winning actress Diane Keaton has died. The American actress who starred in some of the most successful Hollywood films of the 1970s and 80s was 79 years old. Ms. Keaton appeared in hits including all three Godfather films and The First Wives Club, as well as Woody Allen's Manhattan and Annie Hall, for which she won an Oscar for Best Actress. A spokesman said that Ms. Keaton died in California, but gave no further details. Charlotte Gallagher looks back at her life.
Seems like old times having you to walk with.
Diane Keaton in Annie Hall.
Here, don't give it to me.
It was the film that won her an Oscar, and one of 8 she made with her then boyfriend Woody Allen.
Get out of here with that thing.
The part was based largely on Diane Keaton herself.
I mean, you say it, you play well, and then right away, I have to say you play well.
She wore her own clothes, showed her own insecurities.
Oh, well. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-la, yeah.
She was a formidable comedienne, from the slapstick of Sleeper.
I visited Soretsky in his room.
Why? What's in his room?
To the verbal sparring of Love and Death.
And before Soretsky, Alexei. And before Alexei, Allegorian. And before Allegorian, Asimov.
Okay.
Wait, I'm still on the A's.
Well, how many lovers do you have?
In the Midtown area?
You'll never believe this, but I never thought I was very pretty.
She was the perfect foil for Allen's jokes. Her own comedy based more on mannerism and intonation.
Brightest men just drop dead in front of a beautiful face. And the minute you climb into the sack and do the least bit giving, they're so grateful.
Yeah, I know I am.
I think I'm okay with behavior. I think I can add a certain kind of behavior attitude, you know? But I'm not a joke person. I mean, I can't conceive. I'm better with sort of, attitudes.
Hi.
Those skills meant she was equally at home in dramatic roles. Her first big part was in The Godfather, playing an outsider who marries into the mob.
How'd he do that?
My father made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
She won Oscar nominations as a feminist activist in the Russian Revolution, opposite Warren Beatty in Reds.
What does that mean, that I'm controlling and adventurous?
And alongside Jack Nicholson.
So you're as hard on yourself as you are on everyone else.
In Something's Gotta Give. But Diane Keaton may be remembered for those early films. Grave and goofy, assertive, funny, but often flustered. The ultimate complex American woman.
Diane Keaton, who is said by American media to have died at the age of 79. An Oscar winner for her role, of course, in Annie Hall, for the film which actually also won the Oscar Best Picture. Also partner of Woody Allen, of Warren Beatty. She was in numerous films, Manhattan, The First Wives Club, of course, in over 60 films. One of the most versatile and talented actresses of her generation. Let us speak to Kathia Woods, who is film critic at the Philadelphia Tribune. She is in Atlanta. Kathia, I understand that you met Diane Keaton. Just give us your thoughts today.
I met her on the First Wives press run. She was funny and very engaging, and absolutely, of course, she was known for her great personal style.
What do you remember most about her many extraordinary performances in films across the years?
Unapologetically herself. She took risks and she wasn't afraid to try different things. She was also that rare actress that got to have a career post 40, which is very rare in Hollywood. You saw her, in things like the Book Club 1 and Book Club 2, where she still got to play really vibrant and interesting characters. So I think that's the thing that I love about, Diane Keaton the most, is the fact that she defied the odds and pretty much built her career on what she wanted to do, not what the industry told her she could do.
And it was also that versatility, wasn't it, Kathia? The fact that she could play light and shade, that she had such diversity in her ability.
100%. I mean, her first big role, which was The Godfather, where she played this, American woman, this waspy American woman that married into the mafia. And at the time, she just thought it was an immigrant Italian family. And you saw her, Kate, was this very devoted woman, and then became very, distraught by, The Godfather Part 2, the abortion scene between her and Al Pacino is one of those poignant scenes. Also, her work in Reds was very serious, but then, you look at Annie Hall, and you look, which is her signature role, which she won an Oscar for, and then you look at, again, First Wives Club and some of these others where she really got to lean into her humor.
Tell us a little bit about her romantic relations, of course, with Woody Allen and Al Pacino, of course, as well, on screen and off. These were long relationships, particularly with Woody Allen.
Yes, but see, this is the thing. Beth Midler said it when they made First Wives Club, that she was, attached to all these men, but she was very good about not talking about those relationships in public. Even though people knew that they were together, they would appear together in public. Her and Warren were together prior to making Reds, but she would never publicly talk about it. And I'm sure she got offered a ton of money to write about it and, to give exposés, but she would never do it. She was notoriously private.
Yeah, and she was unmarried and I understand had 2 adopted children. It was also her kind of, I suppose, her sort of self-deprecation that she was known for, and that fashion sense.
Yes, I mean, again, there are so many rules for women, especially once you reach a certain age, after 40, what you can wear, what's appropriate. And she was just not a person who paid attention to that. She wore what made her feel comfortable. She was known for those fantastic hats, which you first saw her. She was the sequential 1970s girl with her Annie Hall role, and that wardrobe became part of her signature. And then as she also got older, she continued to wear hats, that signature bob and her glasses. So she was very, very stylish, but she danced to her own tune.
Yeah, and that creativity, I understand she even created ranges of homeware and glasses and wine. So she was a style icon as well as a fantastic acting talent.
Absolutely. And again, it makes perfectly sense for her to do that in this extension of her brand. And she also had a cosmetic contract with CoverGirl. So it's just, just leaning into interesting and just, again, being that modern woman saying, you can be more than one thing.
Kathia Wood, film critic at the Philadelphia Tribune, thank you very much indeed for your memories of Diane Keaton.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the American actress Bette Midler, who starred alongside Diane Keaton in the 1996 film The First Wives Club, has paid tribute to her in an Instagram post. She said, "The brilliant, beautiful, extraordinary Diane Keaton has died. I cannot tell you how unbearably sad this makes me. She was hilarious, a complete original, and completely without guile or any of the competitiveness one would have expected from such a star." Let's speak to our North America correspondent, Peter Bowes, who is live with us from Los Angeles. Peter, Diane Keaton was such a huge figure internationally on film and a complete icon there in Hollywood as well.
She was one of a kind. She had extraordinarily diverse acting skills, her sense of timing, self-deprecation, her fashion sense, of course, which you've just been talking about. There really was no one like Diane Keaton. By her own admission, she was an oddball, and I'm sure that's what we're going to hear a lot about in the coming hours as her co-stars, her friends, colleagues, producers over the years pay tribute. These extraordinary talents that she had, whereas she could, I think as you said, she could play in a comedy, she could act in a drama, and she brought a lot of herself to the roles, but she could be equally authentic in whatever kind of role she played. And you've just read the tribute, a very touching tribute from Bette Midler. Lots of other tributes also coming in. Rosie O'Donnell said her death breaks my heart. She said, what style, what grace. Octavia Spencer, another renowned actress, of course, today, she described her as a true original, a force of nature.
There's a lovely quote from her that she told People magazine, which first broke the news of her death, saying, I think the kindest thing that someone's ever done for me is that I got cast to be in The Godfather and I didn't even read it. I didn't know a single thing. I was just going around auditioning. I think that was amazing for me. And then I had to kind of read the book. I mean, that, you know, a sign also of that sort of self-deprecating humour that you just allude to.
Yes, she played Al Pacino's girlfriend, an extraordinary role in itself. And yeah, as you say, she talked about this at length, that when she went to the audition, she hadn't read the book, which for most actresses, most actors, that would be the cardinal sin, that you find out as much about the story as you can before you audition. But she didn't, but she got the role, and it was then afterwards that she discovered what the story was all about. And I think the very fact that she got the role based on her audition really goes to the talent that she had, and that was clearly observed during that audition. And that was, I think, a hallmark of her life, that she could be so diverse yet still be herself. In Annie Hall, of course, which is the film that she won an Oscar for as Best Actress, a lot of the critics said that she won that award not for playing the role but becoming Annie Hall. She brought so much of her own personality to it that audiences were left not quite believing, well, this the actress or this the character, that she was so wholly authentic in that role.
And such a long career as well, from the 1970s, her sort of heyday, I suppose, but right through to kind of recent years. I mean, she was in the HBO miniseries The Young Pope, beside Jude Law. You know, she starred in a Justin Bieber music video in 2021. So we're talking about somebody who really was one of the kind of long-running stars, not somebody who just peaked for a couple of decades.
Yeah, she actually started on Broadway, an understudy role in the original production of Hair, and then she went on to play in Played Against Sam, Woody Allen's play, the show on Broadway in the late 1960s, and then many of the films that you've just mentioned up until very, very recently. Again, that really just goes to say the diversity of the kind of characters that she could play, the circumstances. You find some actors or actresses will prefer to stay on stage, others will prefer cinema or television. She could do it all, and the fact that and most recently she was appearing on the big screen in these very different kinds of characters, and I think introducing herself to a new cinema-going audience as well, appreciating her talents, but I think most of all is appreciating her personality. You couldn't really watch what she did without smiling. It made you laugh. You appreciated her, as I say, the self-deprecating humour that she had and the extraordinary fashion sense that she showed the world.
Peter Bowes in Los Angeles, thank you very much indeed. Let us speak to Hollywood journalist Jeannie Wolfe, who is in Los Angeles. Jeannie, thanks very much indeed for being with us. How will you remember Diane Keaton?
I will remember, as Bette Midler said, a total original. There was no one like her. And she made fun of herself, but she took her image very seriously. It was in that play you're discussing with Woody Allen that Francis Ford Coppola saw her, and she didn't know that at the audition he had already picked her. He said, look, a lot of people could play a housewife or could play Al Pacino's girlfriend, but she had something solid, something unique, something. I knew she would add things to the role. Francis Ford Coppola said she knew she would be great. It's funny because all of us wanted to be Annie Hall, and I remember talking with her one time, and she said, Jeannie, what I wanted to be was Audrey Hepburn. She said, I dressed like, when I was growing up, I dressed like Audrey Hepburn. I copied all her styles. I knew that I wanted to be something unique. I didn't want to be like anyone else. And so I have to say, I didn't hear a single thing about her being sick, no rumors, and she's famous enough that if a lot of people knew, I think I would have heard something. It was just a complete shock for me to think of this vital, funny, brilliant character not being with us anymore. She seemed so full of life. She seemed so full of artistic feeling. She said, I'm the only single actress who lasted this long and didn't get married, but she did adopt 2 children. She adopted a boy and a girl, and she said that changed her whole life. But she said, she told me, you know, Jeannie, I didn't want to miss that experience. I didn't mind not being married, but I didn't want to miss the experience of being a mother.
I mean, her collection of gongs is quite extraordinary. She got the Oscar, of course, for Annie Hall. She got a BAFTA. She got 2 Golden Globes. She was nominated for 2 Emmys and a Tony. She was nominated for other Oscars. What would you say was her finest performance?
Oh, I would say The Godfather and Annie Hall. I couldn't pick between those 2, but Annie Hall was so uniquely her and turned her into a fashion icon, something that she never dreamt. She just sort of like threw things on, you know, put herself together and did it in a way no one else did. So I would say she'll always be remembered as Annie Hall, and she'll always be remembered as being with 3 of the most famous men in the world, Warren Beatty, Al Pacino, and Woody Allen. But she was very good-humored, very nice, but on a set, she wouldn't be sitting around chatting so much. She would go off by herself. And one of her big hobbies was buying and decorating homes. And she said, I know just what to do. But she said, I couldn't tell you the price of anything except my mistakes. My mistakes, I can tell you down to the penny.
Annie Hall, of course, won the Oscar for Best Picture, and she won the Oscar for it, of course, thought to be one of the greatest films ever made, but also said to have been based actually around her and around her life.
He started writing, he thought he would write about her, and then he made it, he says what he did is make it a bit about her and a bit about fiction, and then the more she became Annie Hall, the more Diane became Annie Hall. So she was unique. I went to the American Film Institute tribute for her, and you'd see actors and actresses and people in Hollywood get up, and for all her calling herself an oddball and being laughed at because of her clothes, she was highly respected. People knew that she was something different on screen, that she was something you couldn't take your eyes off.
And among the kind of the glitterati of Tinseltown, she's obviously we've had some tributes, and you know, she's obviously been given that Lifetime Achievement Award. Was she also liked there? Was she also, you know, was she sort of part of the LA scene, as it were?
She was part of the LA scene, really, in a very rarefied way, because the people we're mentioning were not the people you just see out around with it at restaurants and get their picture taken every 15 minutes. So she was very much part of the scene, but people would stay apart from her a little bit. They understood her individuality, and they did understand her total devotion to her 2 kids. I'm still just reeling from the idea that there was no talk about her being sick, and that now she's gone. Well, we have her movies, and if you put one on right now, you'd know there was a spark, there was fireworks, there was sincerity, there was thought, there were things that any actress, a combination of things that no other actress ever had.
Jeannie Wolfe, wonderful to get your thoughts on this sad day. Thank you very much indeed. And Jeannie talking about there how her family are asking for privacy, that she was devoted to her 2 adopted children, and clearly a tragedy, personal tragedy for them, as well as the tragedy for all those who were massive fans of Diane Keaton. Well, the actor Ben Stiller also paid tribute to her, saying on X, "Diane Keaton, one of the greatest film actors ever, an icon of style, humour and comedy. Brilliant. What a person." Let us speak to entertainment journalist Tanya Hart. She is host of the syndicated radio show Hollywood Live and the podcast Hollywood Live Extra. Thanks very much, Tanya, for being with us. What are your thoughts today?
Well, thank you for having me, Mark. First of all, it's always hard to follow my mentor, Jeannie Wolfe, in anything. But first, I'm like Jeannie. I'm shocked and saddened. I mean, there was no talk of anything. Diane used to live in my neighborhood. I used to actually walk by her house every day. She sold this house probably maybe 10 years or so ago. But I don't know what to say almost, because she was such a lovely person. It seems that she hasn't really been seen, though, in public since last Christmas. That was the last time any paparazzi or people talked about her being out and about. She was out Christmas shopping in December of 2024. I think one of her last big public appearances before that was she appeared at the U.S. Open back in 2023. So it's not like we've seen her out and about. But Diane was that kind of person. She didn't get out and about often. And so everybody is just in shock. What can we say?
Interesting, Tanya, that you had that personal connection with her. What was she like off air? Was she off screen? Was she as quirky and as funny and as self-deprecating as on screen?
Absolutely. She, as Jeannie mentioned, the character Annie Hall was very much her. It wasn't that. Well, how can I put it? Some people called it quirky. I just called it a unique sense of confidence. She, despite all of the kind of, what people would call quirky, she was very confident about her ability to do what she did, and she did it well. I think she was not the type of person who needed a lot of accolades, even though they always came to her, but she was really just a nice, quiet person that, as Jeannie said, took care of her children, took care of herself and her art as she presented herself, and people loved her. People who didn't know her loved her. Everybody loved her. I've never heard, interestingly enough, I've been in this town a long time, I have not ever heard anyone say anything bad about Diane Keaton.
Well, that is a lovely thing a quality to have about people, and is rare, of course, and I imagine particularly rare actually in LA, where I suppose egos often get in the way.
All the time, every single time. So yes, she was that person, and as Jeannie said, she did create a sense of style that we now kind of call bohemian chic. If you really look at what bohemian chic is, and you look back to Annie Hall and those days of fashion, you can kind of connect those dots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading actually something that she said in her memoir in 2014 about that style, which was very, very iconic. She said, I tell myself I'm free to do whatever the hell I want with my body. Why not? I may be a caricature of my former self. I'm still wearing wide-belted plaid coats, horn-rimmed glasses and turtlenecks in the summertime. So what? Nobody cares but me. I mean, it's a wonderful confidence that she had and that she exuded through that fashion sense as well.
And you should, I don't know if anybody's mentioned, she was in the original cast of Hair.
Yeah, that was her first job actually big job.
It was her very first job, and she refused to do nude. And certainly at that point she was young enough where she could have done that, but she held her ground and she didn't do nude.
Very interesting. Tanya, how do you think she will be? Her acting style will be remembered to have evolved. I mean, from the 70s, which was the heyday of Annie Hall and Godfather Part 1, etc., through to the very different types of roles that she took then into the 2000s and onwards.
Well, for Diane, Diane she was a star. She was a movie star. She did a lot of television later on, but she really is one of the few movie stars that we have left really here in Hollywood, because that era and that generation of people, many of them started in theater, and they were actually they trained. They knew how to act. They knew how to emote. They knew how to create a character arc. And I think she will be remembered just for that, for being a great actress as well as a real bona fide movie star.
Tanya Hart, a lovely tribute there to Diane Keaton. Thank you very much indeed, entertainment journalist from Hollywood Live and Hollywood Live Extra. If you are just joining us, a reminder of our breaking news this hour, which is that the Oscar-winning actress Diane Keaton is reported by US media to have died at the age of 79. We have got special coverage as we take in the tributes and the memories of a true icon of American cinema. Let us speak to film critic Christina Newland, who is on the line. Christina, thanks for joining us. How do you remember Diane Keaton, and what stood out for you, apart from, of course, the Oscar winner of Annie Hall? What were some of her iconic performances for you?
I mean, I think it begins very much for a lot of people, and for me too, with The Godfather. I mean, she is the moral force as Kay in the center of The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. And of course, the first film ends on her face as a door is being shut. She's being kind of left out of this masculine world. And I think that, there's something interesting about Keaton and her pointed difference from so many other actresses that were around during this period. Is this period of incredible American films that were coming out. And she makes a sort of individualistic impression on every film that she's in. She's got this very sweet, vulnerable, oddball presence, whether that's the kind of sweetness being highlighted in the Godfather films or the oddball and the kind of funny elements that show up in the Woody Allen movies.
Christina, she was, of course, one of the great US actresses, particularly the 70s. If I may, you seem relatively young. You look young. What do younger generations and your friends and you're particularly a film critic, of course, but I mean, for your age group, were they fans? Are they fans of Diane Keaton?
Absolutely. I mean, I guess a lot of my friends are in the film world, but we love her style. I think the 70s have come back in a big way, and she is so unique in that way. Her androgyny, her willingness to just step outside, the very traditional realms of femininity that existed then, and I think also she played a lot of roles outside of Annie Hall, which is, of course, this incredible, she's such an incredible, luminous presence in that movie. But she played a kind of women's lib figure in a film called Looking for Mr. Goodbar from 1977, which is sort of a lesser seen one of her films, and she's great in that. She has this great line in The Godfather Part 2 where she talks about getting an abortion. She talks about being kind of pro-choice in this very patriarchal world. In Warren Beatty's Reds, she plays a political radical and a sort of suffragette. So she played roles which were forward-looking, and I think she was interested in playing those roles.
Tell us a little bit about her private life, because, of course, she was known for her talent principally, of course, but she was romantically linked to really big names, Al Pacino, Woody Allen, Warren Beatty and the like, but was quite proud of never marrying and never settling down.
Yeah, she had a talent, and I think if you read her memoir, you certainly get the sense she had a talent for knowing when to hit the road, which served her well. But she had incredible creative collaborations with several of the men she dated. Of course, she talks a lot about meeting Pacino and being very intimidated on the set of The Godfather, being very masculine, and then eventually forming this wonderful lifelong friendship, long after the romance had come and gone. But with Allen as well, in spite of everything else that goes on with Allen and his politics, she remains this kind of really sunny, funny, beautiful presence in so many of his movies, particularly Manhattan and Interiors. So really, those relationships might have been short-lived, but the art that came out of them is, you know, sort of immortal for all of us.
Christina Newland, film critic, thank you very much indeed for your recollections and insights. Well, let us return to our North America correspondent, Peter Bowes, who is live in Los Angeles. Peter, reaction coming in quite thick and fast. Bring some of it to us.
Yes, and we're really hearing, aren't we, some extraordinary tributes to this woman, this actress who, it's fair to say, forged her own path in life and in her illustrious career in Hollywood in a way that few can. She was clearly, I think, determined to do things her way. She never married. She said she never wanted to marry. Of course, as I've just been hearing, she had some very high-profile relationships, often with the men that she worked with. And one tribute that just caught my eye, which I think is particularly touching, is from Viola Davis. She says, "No, no, no." She says, "You defined womanhood, your pathos, the humour, levity, your ever-present youthfulness and vulnerability. You tattooed your soul into every role, making it impossible to imagine anyone else inhabiting them. You were undeniably, unapologetically you. Loved you." Viola Davis. And I think that really just sums up the woman, the actress, and the legacy that she clearly leaves.
And Peter, we are running out of time, but briefly, you are there reporting so much on A-list celebs who come and go, but Diane Keaton really seems to have stood out.
She certainly stood out, and I think this town of Los Angeles, of Hollywood, will be in shock at the moment because, as we've heard, we didn't really know that she was sick, and this has come as a tremendous shock and a surprise to many people to hear that she has passed away. And I think people will be taking a bit of time just to understand what's happened, just to absorb it, and we'll be seeing over the next few days many more tributes to the kind of actress of whom there are relatively few these days, someone of her stature who is clearly going to be remembered for all these many diverse roles that we've been talking about, from comedies to hard-hitting drama.
Peter Bowes in Los Angeles, thank you very much. Yes, as Peter was saying, the tribute's still coming. Ben Stiller saying Diane Keaton, one of the greatest film actors ever, an icon of style, humour and comedy. Brilliant, what a person. She never married, she had 2 adopted children. She is survived by her daughter Dexter and her son Duke, the 79-year-old Oscar-winning legend Diane Keaton, who has died. Stay with us here on BBC News. Back in just a moment or two.